Well, thank you, Mr. King. Very well said. And the 2 points that I do want to respond to have to do more with process than with the substance of the project. Because it's important to us that the public believe that there's a legitimate and genuine interest on the part of the city to open this project up to the community and get this kind of discussion going in advance of any decision making by the council. So number one, I'm really puzzled that you were unable to find information about tonight's meeting, in that it's been posted on the city's website for a number of weeks. We've sent direct correspondence to all of the homeowners associations in the city. And Tom Dunn has certainly made that information available. I'm sure we weren't perfect about it, but we really did make an effort to make everyone who was interested in this aware of the meeting tonight. And the other point is, yes, there have been discussions with the developer, and I think I acknowledged that at the beginning of the meeting. The fact that there have been discussions with the developer doesn't mean that there is a project and this is the developer and the deal's already been made. There was that discussion with the developer that you referred to at the city council, and I think that was the point at which both the council and the staff agreed this is starting to be a serious discussion. It's time to pull back. Because if we hadn't, then we'd be going down the road toward making the deal, defining the project, and then coming out to the community and said, okay, here's the project, it's done. And that was the path that we did not want to take. So discussions with the developer, certainly interest on the part of the developer, certainly interest in theory on the part of the city council, and then say, look, okay, let's hold it before we define what the project is. In any details, I can't tell you whether it's 10 stories or 12 stories, but that's been sort of the range of discussions up till now. But let's just hold it right there and sort of take it out on the street and see what the opinions are, and that brings us to tonight.
Thank you. With regard to this, the way I heard it is there was two.
Linda, hold the mic.
There was two 12-story towers that were going to go on that property. And you had discussed earlier about 10 years ago, that high rise that was there. And I'm wondering how we went from 48 stories down to 10 or 12 stories. Certainly nowhere around here is there anything over, I think, 4 stories or 5 stories might be the highest. So I'm wondering how it was determined how tall this was going to be, is my first question. And my next question is, why was this site chosen over the acreage across from the museum? That seems to be a more suitable lot for this type of a thing. And then my third is, when we had our meeting at the music center about the marijuana lab, it was suggested that that deal could theoretically pull the city out of debt, and with the revenue that they would receive from that. And now we're hearing again that we still need revenue. So how serious is our problem with the city that we're looking for the multi-millions in revenue that has to be ongoing, that we have to change the whole lifestyle of our community for these things that are really not suitable to our community. And yes, I would love to move forward and make this more of a touristy town, but this just seems so out of the box to me, and that's my comments.
You're really taxing me here because you asked 3 questions.
I'm sorry.
If I recall right, the first one had to do with the height, and why, and so 10 to 12 stories and all that, compared to the earlier, much larger project. Well, the answer is that there is no height yet determined. I mean, again, we get back to there are no parameters set yet for the project. I think the discussion got to the point of saying, 48 stories, that really didn't work. Let's start scaling it down significantly, and to pick a number out of the air, let's talk about 10, 11, 12. And if it turns out it has to go below that, or if a project can be supported at a lower height than that, maybe that's the way it'll turn out. But that's the level of analysis that went into that number, which means there was very little analysis. Number two, why the beachfront site instead of Market Street? I think the answer is simply that with Port Hueneme being so far off everybody's beaten path, as we've all wrestled with over the years, everybody in business wrestles with the location of Port Hueneme relative to all of the traffic patterns and travel routes that make it so difficult to attract people into the downtown. I think the feeling was the Market Street site doesn't really offer anything except 2 acres of land, surrounded by nothing exceptional in the way of amenity value, as opposed to a beach which is so unique and so attractive. I mean, exactly the same reason that those of you who don't want to see the hotel built, don't want to sort of share that with the people who might come to the beach for that very same attraction. It's a difficult project to make happen financially, and so the feeling was you really got to start with sort of the A location from a business point of view and see if that can work.
Who said that? Who said that? You said you have to start at this point. Whose determination was that? And what kind of study was put into that to make the determination?
Right.
And if you put it on Market Street, you could make your 20-story building. And people could look at the beach. View.
Well, except then Mar Vista would be in the room here tonight. And that's just one. So that's the level of analysis that's happened up till now, which is really just discussion. There are all sorts of studies that have to happen in the course of this project, and that's why, as Tony said, we've got years to go. But those studies haven't happened yet. Number three was, the revenue from marijuana. Well, I think the answer is a couple of points only. That, number one, all the money that was talked about then, there is no deal. We talked about what might happen at that property, but the discussions with the group that was in the lead, so to speak, at the time, have fallen apart. We've redone the request for proposals out into the world, which is happening right now. So we're no further toward actually making the money come out of that site than we were when we talked in June. So that's the reason. So that's the reason that we have to explore every opportunity. We've got that one, we've got this one, we've got the Blue House, we've got Pleasant Valley lots. Maybe only one of those will actually come to fruition over the years. We don't know now, so that's why we're pursuing all of them to see what happens.
My name is Dr. Singer, Larry Singer. I've been a resident of Port Hueneme for 30 years and a homeowner for 25. Mr. Kinney, you mentioned 10 years ago about the 45 or 48-story monstrosity that was going to be proposed. They were farther along with that project than we are with this, because they had models and everything. They put a lot of money into it. Here we are again. Same developer. And what they do is they wait. They're like vultures. They wait until the city is really in dire straits financially. Then they swoop in with this money-making project. I don't doubt that these projects will be money-making. I don't care how many stories we're talking about. I don't care what location they pick. Unlike this nice lady here. I don't want to see Port Hueneme a resort facility. Why? I'll say the same thing that I said 10 years ago, and that project was voted down. First of all, you put in a resort hotel, you've got traffic. And Port Hueneme only has a couple of roads to come in and out, so the traffic will be bad. Number two, do you like our beaches now?
Yes.
Clean, pristine, even on a 3-day holiday weekend, you can go to our beaches and they're nothing like our sister beaches to the north and the south. Crime. Crime will go up. You don't believe that? Take a look at the beaches to the north and south. Florida, take a look at how they built their beach areas up. Their crime, the beaches are a mess. They can't even keep up with anything there. And if the city council is thinking, well, we'll just do this one project. That's the only one we'll approve. You're living in la-la land. Because once you set the precedent and approve a project like this, and it gets built, and if it's as successful as the developer thinks it's going to be, you'll have other developers that say, hey, Port Hueneme, fairly undeveloped. We want to come in there too. And if the city council is thinking, well, we'll just turn them down, guess again. They'll sue us. They'll bankrupt the city because that's restraint of trade and it's also unfair business practices. How do you think urban sprawl starts? It starts with one. And then, so, the developer said 10 years ago, we have done our homework and this project will be a multi-million-dollar success. And we will put Port Hueneme on the map. And I said to him, with all due respect, I don't know what you've been smoking or what you've been drinking, but what makes you think the residents of Port Hueneme want to be on anybody's map? We're very happy people can't pronounce us, let alone spell our name. We don't want this kind of a project anywhere. Now one of the things all of you know, because you've been around long enough, and by the way, I just brought this just for laughs. It says no job. Remember this? Remember this? Okay, that was from the 10-year ago project. You know, if you're thinking that the city needs revenue, yes, but politicians, and I think most of us here, if not all of us, will agree, it's real easy to raise taxes or to come up with the sale of property and projects to generate revenue. Much easier to do that than it is to take a look at what we're spending and tighten our belts. Just eliminate those programs that might be nice, but not essential. And stop spending money like it wasn't yours, because it is.
My name is Dave Murphy. I'm the president of the Anacapa View Beach Homes Association, and I want to thank all of our homeowners for being here tonight. Steve, we We have a letter that's addressed to the mayor and all the council members, signed by all 5 board members and representative of all 84 homeowners. So we'll be delivering that tomorrow to the mayor in strong opposition to this project for a number of reasons. First, traffic, noise, parking, light pollution, water usage, disruption to our beach area and walking path, potential increase in crime, aesthetic value or aesthetic damage to our community and our shoreline. We noticed a number of years ago that when there were rocks being placed along the beach, that a number of our homes, am I right about this, Ann, had structural damage to their homes, so we're fearful of that as well. So we just want to let you know that we are going to be strongly opposed to this, and we're not going to let it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Hardy, and I have a home or a condo at 350 Surfside. I've had it for about, since 2010, or 2010, however you want to say it. And I have a girlfriend that bought one in 1999, and she's right on the water. Both of our units are on the water. And we love sitting out there. I was at her place, and she's got a second or third story unit, sitting on her patio, and we were watching the sunset, and it's something I will never, ever forget, this one sunset. I mean, they're all nice, but this one was just outstanding when you have light clouds, and you have the sky that turns red and red, and just so beautiful. And I'm thinking that that view might be blocked. And I would not like that at all. No. I have this home here. It's a second home for me, and I rent it out off and on. But I love coming down here because the beach is so quiet. There's no traffic. And if you build an office building with a hotel, you're going to have for sure more traffic. And I don't know how much it's going to be. And you're going to have more people on the beach. And I don't know about the crime, but maybe it will increase. I don't know about that. But I am really concerned about the traffic and the number of people and how quiet the beach is. It's just a place I just love to be. I come down here and I just love it. And what was it I was going to say? I don't know if because of the change of the view for the sunset and the traffic and the increase in people, it may reduce the value of our properties. I don't know. Yeah, and that's not good. Why did you want to do that? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Stephen?
Hello, this is Stephen Gum. I live at San Miguel Circle in Surfside Village. First of all, the city manager, just want to say, there was a time when I used to hit golf balls from here into this vacant field before it was sold. And I bring that up because the city keeps selling its properties for short-term, one-time money, and it vanishes and disappears, and here we are again talking about selling property. So if I were you, then I would strongly encourage you to consider lease options on any property or development that you're considering. Because imagine if we leased this property to the port rather than sold it. We would be able to, like many land barons and landlords do, they hold on to properties and they rent them out year after year after year, and they end up making more money than selling it. So first thing I'd say is stop selling the property. That, it hasn't worked, and we're in the same financial position. So, you know, it's just a bad policy, I think, at this point, because we're running out of properties to sell. Secondly, I think this site probably the worst site for a hotel. And I was trying to prepare and bring pictures with me, and I saw the same picture, and I was trying to print it out. I couldn't print it out, and I'm really glad that you printed it out, because it is the marketing piece for no to this site. There's no beach. This is when the dredging situation was so dire, Surfside Drive was going to fall into the ocean. There's zero sand here. Who in their right mind wants to build a hotel where you don't have a reliable beach? We can't get that right. The federal government can't do their job, and we're stuck with this. And you're telling me someone's going to build a hotel there? And I don't trust the process and this, whoever this gentleman is. I don't know what his tie is to this city and development, but I'm for development. I'm not for this. I think there's a couple other sites I'll mention, and I'll probably be laughed out of the room when I do, so I'll save that for last. But I would be super enthusiastic if you told me Marriott is knocking on our door, a world-class, world-experienced resort developer. They know all the issues that we're going to deal with. They deal with them in Hawaii and Maui and everywhere, right? But we're talking to somebody that has no experience. How many hotels has he built and managed successfully? Why would we even consider entertaining a one-shot Louis guy who has no resume behind him with success stories of building a hotel or resort? I don't get that. But for me, the biggest problem is the dredging. We talk about the walking path because, as you know, when the sand gets down, rocks come over and collect on the path, and they need to be scraped off and so forth and so on. So I just can't see how in the world a successful 5-star resort could be built on that property. Here's the time to laugh me out of the building. So I understand the city's in a dire situation with the pension costs. They have a lot of employees, they have a lot of problems meeting their obligations. Miranda Park. I've lived here for 20 plus years. When I first moved here 20 years ago, Miranda Park was stellar. It was great. Everything was nice. It's in complete decay. It's falling apart. The lights are disappearing. The fences are disappearing. But there's a lot of land there. There's a lot of unused land there. And you know, what if you said to somebody, a developer said, hey, could you develop this into a Miranda Park and Resort, and maybe you could have the responsibility for maintaining it? That would save the city money, right? Or it's just an idea, you know. And maybe we could have a joint use agreement where we could have soccer fields, basketball courts, tennis courts, and maybe the city could actually lessen its monthly obligations by entering an agreement like that. Or the other piece of property that I think that could be an alternative is the front of the pier area between the pier and Surfside 1. That's another area that's just a drain on the city, total drain on the city. It's in disrepair, and it's hard to upkeep, and it takes a lot of man hours. But again, you know, if we're going to consider this site, then I believe there's 2 other potential sites that you could consider as well. But my biggest concern is that unless it's a 5-star Marriott, Hyatt, Regency, whatever, some Holiday Inn, what about the Holiday Inn? Why don't we approach them and say, Holiday Inn, you seem to be happy here. What about expanding upwards there on that side? So I think that the process has been a little flawed, and it kind of seems like that train is on the track, and for whatever reason there's a relationship with this guy and somebody wants it to work. I just don't think we should put all our eggs in a basket where there's no resume experience in this type of, highly successful experience in this type of business. I just think it seems a gamble. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ingram, and I've been a 30-year resident of Port Hueneme. I'm opposed to this project for 2 reasons. Security and cost. Let's take the cost. You keep saying there's going to be $1 million project coming into Port Hueneme, but you haven't dealt with the cost going out of Port Hueneme. You build a $1 million hotel, you're gonna have increased police, fire, ambulance. In order to build this hotel, you've got to pull up the street to put in lights, water, sewage, and internet, at the minimum. That sewage is going to have to go to your sewage plant, which is over 90% capacity right now. Oxnard would like to charge you for that, because it's sitting on Oxnard property. I've heard them. So you may have $1 million coming in, but you may have $2 million going out, and you're still in a hole. You really need to seriously, logistically look at every penny, not the aesthetics architecturally, the bones. And if you can't afford that, buy. And it's not just police for 1 year. Because if you put that building up, you're going to have banquet space. Banquet space makes money. Friday night, we're drunk, we're happy, we just had a wedding. How many police are down there? Okay? The second thing is security. 12 stories high, that sounds wonderful, but ladies and gentlemen, we sit next to a naval base. A wonderful naval base. Let's be honest, sometimes it helps. I remember they wanted to bring in an aircraft carrier and the whole community went, and then we didn't get an aircraft carrier. Now we're gonna get a 12-story hotel. Has anybody actually sat down with that base and their security concerns today without the hotel that they are deeply concerned about in the world we live today? I don't want to go panicky, everybody go crazy. No. But I have heard from their security in another meeting a couple months back. They said they had 2 guys come up from out of the country saying, oh, they just wanted to visit. They were looking for Port Hueneme. Why would you be looking for us? It didn't add up. And that is a big deal of what goes on that base and who is residing on that base. And the hidden, dirty little, well, hidden, not dirty, secret of Port Hueneme is if you look up the coast of California, we're the hidden little port that nobody knows about except the Navy for a reason. Like I said, an aircraft carrier could come in here. And if they needed to, they could come in and go out, just without anybody knowing. We think of LA, San Diego, and San Francisco, and they like for us to think of it that way. Let no one else know. So those things I haven't heard. And that is really critical. 12 stories, you can reach into that harbor and into that base a whole lot easier.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And very good points, all of them. I mean, there's certainly all points that have to go on the list of needing to be studied, addressed, talked to. I mean, clearly the Navy has to be talked to. It's just been a little bit early in the process to get them involved yet, but they're sure on the list. And then the others that she mentioned as well, all very good points. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Alan Phillips. I live in the Anacapa View Beach Homes, which would be seriously impacted by this project. I have a few points that I'd like to bring up. First of all, this project does not fit in with the community character of Port Hueneme. Everything around the area, including the area around what's shown in the picture there, is nothing but 2- and 3-story structures, residential structures. And you are going to negatively impact the views of, again, not only these homes that are shown in the picture, but also the surrounding communities. A result of that is going to be property values are going to go down. I, for one, will protest my property tax assessment if my property value goes down. And you can do that on an annual basis. So I'm going to suggest that that's going to be a loss to the city, property tax revenue. Because I certainly will, if my property value goes down, I will every year be filing to try to get it reduced. Let's see here. As has already been mentioned, we're going to have noise, air, traffic, light pollution, trash on our beach. This is a beautiful, quiet, quaint community. That's the reason I lived here. As the previous speaker said, this is kind of a hidden gem on our coastline. The only multi-story structure is that obnoxious power plant that's further down the way, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. This project is going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's going to look horrible. As I think has already been alluded to, but this is really a good picture because this shows when every 2 years, the sand has to be replenished on this beach. At this time, Congress did not appropriate the funding for this, and it got to the point that Surfside Drive was seriously at risk. The city had to come in and spend $2 million to put rock along there to protect that road. $2 million. At the same time, these rocks that were already in place started getting undermined and were collapsing in. So those had to be bolstered up. Now, this is something that potentially can happen every couple of years. Who's going to pay for that? To keep rebuilding this to protect this office building and hotel tower? We've got a rising sea level. This is a horrible place to be building something like this. It just seems to me like the buildings themselves will be at risk.
You're gonna sink.
I recognize the need for a balanced budget, absolutely, but I think there are other ways to generate revenue or avoid spending in our city that haven't been looked at. I've just been looking at the internet for the past few days. I guess we just settled $1.5 million lawsuit with a former city council member, and now there's another lawsuit that's been filed by a former city council member that I suspect will get settled for over $1 million. You talk about generating $1 million a year in this project. We've got to control our out of control city council situation.